Welcome back to the Watercolor Journey Painting Challenge. Hi, I'm Chris, and this time I'd like to show you how to paint a version of a loose watercolor fall forest. Let's get into it. I'm going to be keeping it simple on this one, and I'm first going to start with a little bit of blue. I'm going to continue with my Viviva Colors fall color sheets. And starting with the blue, I'm just going to paint just a little bit of blue at the top. I'm going to keep it really light. I want to keep it very, very light because I'm going to be painting yellow and orange over this. I don't want the blue to interfere with those colors, especially the yellow, turning it green. So I'm going to keep it really, really light and fan this out quite a bit. I'm going to be keeping it fairly even, but it doesn't have to be a perfect blend. And that's plenty. Our view is going to be looking through the trees into the forest. And so there's going to be quite a few tree trunks that I'm going to paint at different sizes. I'm going to stick with this tree bark brown because I like it a lot. And it works very nicely for what I'm doing. It looks like I squirted some here, so I'll go ahead and start right here. And I'm going to paint a tree trunk coming right down. And it's getting lighter as I go, so I want to just add some water to this. And you can see it's kind of created a wet-on-wet effect where when I drop it in, it travels through the tree trunk. And then some of them will stop a little short. So I'm going to paint them at different intervals and different thicknesses. The thinner they are, the further away they are. And so they're not going to come all the way to the bottom of the page because they're not that close in range. In this composition, I'm going to try to create a lot of different thicknesses. I'm going to make this one a little lower than that one because this one is so skinny. I may have to thicken that up just a little bit. We'll see. You can see I'm making some spin-off branches, but not too many. And I did forget that on some of these, I want to stop short and allow for some leaves to kind of go in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and do that here since I didn't go all the way to the top yet. And I could paint some leaves in between so it looks a little more natural. I'm just using the very tip of my brush for the skinnier branches. I don't have to add a lot of branches, just enough of them to make this look like a tree that's believable. Most of this is going to be leaves, so we don't have to get crazy. I'm pretty happy with that. It's not a full forest, but it's a pretty nice collection of tree trunks. And I think we have a lot to work with here. It was very relaxing, just sort of getting into the line work and practicing thinning out and thickening my strokes. This is a great starting point for our leaves. I'll start in on where it's dry already with some of my autumn colors. And I'm just going to dab. I'm not going to be too careful. I'm just going to sort of swirl and dab because these colors are just all over the place. And I'm going to go ahead and leave some spaces where the blue is up here just to give it that effect that we're looking up into the sky. I'm being careful not to paint over my tree trunks too much because the water will activate them and they will blend instead of appearing to be tree trunks. So I'm being really careful with that, but I do want to paint over all the white on this painting. I'm just going to go ahead and take some of those spots and fill in with orange. Not all of them, just a few. I could have done a base of orange in the background, which would have been an interesting idea, but I really didn't know where I was going to put my tree trunks and where I was going to fill in. So we're going to do some other things to make sure that our tree trunks stay put and stay looking great. Pretty nice start on the orange. There's quite a bit of orange on the ground as well, so maybe I'll start filling in here too. It can go quite fast now that I'm just mainly filling in the bottom. We're going to be using some other colors, but I want to get a lot of orange in this one because that's what it mainly is going to consist of. Now going over the areas that have dried, I'm going all in with my happy yellow and start filling in some of these spaces. I do have to be careful. In fact, maybe I'll use my thinner brush. That's a great continuation. And now I'd like to start dropping some autumn leaves where it's wet so that it can spread. I'm just filling in most of these white spaces down here. I don't have to fill all of them in because it could show some reflection. So I'm just going to get the main ones. Now I'm going to start stippling the ground so we can see more tones down here, kind of like in the last painting. So I'm keeping the dots a little smaller as they go off into the distance and larger as you come closer, because then it helps give you the sense of the perspective that we're looking at. Okay, I think that's enough little dots with that color. I'm going to go ahead and keep adding to the leaves up here. There's just not enough of this color up here. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that in. To give the illusion there are even more trees in the background, I'm just going to paint some really skinny trunks out here in the middle. Don't need to do any more detail to them, just to show a little more density. I really hope you enjoyed that painting, and I can't wait to see your version of this project. If you get a chance to paint it, I would love to see your version in the private Facebook community. You can also post your questions in the comments below, or of course in the group, which is a safe space for you to share your projects and thoughts. You can find the link to the group in the description. If you're just finding this watercolor painting channel on YouTube, I have a watercolor painting challenge you can join for free. You'll get access to the lessons, the full color workbook, the Facebook group community I talked about before, and an online challenge hub, all for free, so you don't want to miss it. There's a link to sign up in the description. And when you share your artwork in the group, you might even see it featured in one of these videos. Thanks so much for being here. If you enjoyed this tutorial, I would so appreciate it if you would hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, and tap the notification bell so you don't miss any new videos as they come out. And I'll see you next time.